Welcome everyone to the Wake Up Call channel. A lot has happened in the last 48 hours, and before these events started to occur, like the social security quote-unquote data breach psyop that's floating around, and of course the WHO declaring a global emergency with what they're now calling Mpox, which is monkeypox. We also just had the Olympics, and we had all those ceremonies during the Olympics, the opening ceremony, the closing ceremony. I broke both of those down here for you to see, which you could go and check out in my video library. But if you haven't seen it, there's a lot of symbolism in it. And we all know that the Olympics is something that is viewed in every country, right? We know that like the Super Bowl and certain sporting events are national things, right? The Super Bowl mainly is watched in America. They do watch it in other countries, but mainly it's watched in America, and that's why they use the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl commercials to program the audience out there, because they know they'll have so many eyeballs on the product. In other countries, they have their own sporting events that they'll do the same thing with, whether it's soccer, which is American, soccer, which is known as football in other countries. All these countries have these big sporting events. The Olympics is a global one, so they know that everybody's watching around the earth. And I noted in one of my videos that pale horse ceremony. And again, what we've seen over the years is that they're using more and more horse symbolism, which is symbolic to the book of Revelation and the four horsemen of the apocalypse, in their rituals. You may remember a few months ago, another YouTuber sounded a lot like me covered the two horses that were let loose in London, the black horse and the white horse, of course, covered in blood. We have seen this horse symbolism now really ramped up, and they reveal themselves through these rituals and ceremonies that they do. In the opening ceremony at the Olympics on a global stage, days before, they announced that there's another global emergency that we all need to watch out for. We saw that metallic horse. For those of you that don't know, they've been using the metallic horse, a horse that looks like it's made of metal, to symbolize the pale horse. A white horse and a pale horse are very easy to get confused, right? Because in a sense, a pale horse and a white horse are different shades of white. They've been using this type of metallic looking horse to symbolize the pale horse in the book of Revelation. They've been using it, and I'll show you more symbolism of it a little bit later in the video, but they've been using it a lot lately. In the book of Revelation, chapter 6, verse 8, "And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God, and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled." So keep in mind a few things from that passage, right? Hunger, killing with the sword. We have whispers of World War III. We now have this new global emergency that they're rolling out, this new global pandemic that they're starting to roll. We have the bird flu, where we know the goal of that is to get vaccines, CRISPR, in the food supply chain. Not that it's not already there, but more and more mandates are going to come to force that onto local farmers and people who own chickens, to pass it through the eggs, etc., etc., etc. And even in that verse, it says, I saw under the altar of the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And of course, this entire opening ceremony that featured the pale horse also just happened to depict Christian mockery, right? Deliberately. It also happened to use a decapitation type of theme as well, by showing us Marie Antoinette. And of course, the other symbolism behind it, which is in my video, which has to do with treason, which is happening right now. So I mentioned the pale horse, and why they keep using the pale horse is because the symbolism of the pale horse is death. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death. Now, Beyonce is the other person to note, because we're seeing repetition, right? When we see repetition, we need to pay attention to the repetition. They don't expect you to see this stuff put together and say, wait, why did they have a metallic horse, very bizarre, at the opening ceremonies? What does that have to do with anything, right? Just like they had Lucifer depicted at the closing ceremonies. Why is Beyonce constantly using imagery of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, right? Beyonce has used the white horse, the red horse, the pale horse, and the black horse in almost every single photo shoot that has been prominently put in a magazine or in some of her music videos as well. So Beyonce this year had a commercial that came out during the Super Bowl for Verizon. And in that video, Beyonce was on top of the Sphere, which is in Las Vegas, which I did an expose video on. I have more to come about U2's concert that was done at the Sphere and the MK Ultra and the frequency attacks that are being done through this massive concert venue that they're really just hitting people with just unbelievable amounts of frequencies. But that video is available on the website in regards to U2, but at the Sphere, right? So Beyonce was sitting on top of the Sphere, sitting on a pale horse. Now, they don't expect you to figure out what they're doing. They expect you to see the pale horse and say, wow, is that a pale horse? What's Beyonce wearing? Wow, Beyonce is so cool. And then they expect your thoughts to end there. But if you pay attention and see the pattern, they're really pushing this down our throats. Beyonce is constantly pushing the pale horse on us. There's Beyonce again and again and again, sitting atop a pale horse. A pale horse, again, that they're using to symbolize, or they're showing the symbolism of the pale horse using this metallic, almost like mirror-like horse. That is the pale horse that they are depicting. So now that the Olympics has come and gone, now that we see what has come in the last couple of days since then, well, they tell you that your social security is under attack. They tell you in Australia that, hey, we're coming out with the digital ID. We're moving forward with the digital ID. Everybody's got to get on board or they're going to get left behind, right? Now everybody in other countries has their social security hacked and their address and all their personal information hacked. And everyone goes, well, what are we supposed to do about it? Well, we have a solution for you, your digital ID. Oh, how convenient. At the same time that they're telling us that there's another outbreak occurring. And of course, if you read between the lines and if you watch some of the videos that I've done on all of these topics in the last week or so, how do we pinpoint that? Well, we pinpoint it by saying, this digital ID ties into an outbreak. This digital ID ties into massive amounts of deaths. Why? Not because of the Mpox, not because I actually believe the propaganda that the Mpox, monkeypox, is on the loose and we should all be afraid to breathe. I mean, unless you're packing the fudge, you probably don't have anything to be concerned about. But what is concerning, of course, and what they're referencing with death is many different things that are happening at once, right? Take a look at the weaponized weather that we see going on around the world right now. How many coasts are being put underwater? How many massive earthquakes are we seeing popping up on radar systems where these earthquakes are hitting unbelievable magnitudes that could cause massive tsunamis? Those are things that people need to pay attention to. Of course, when it comes to Mpox, like I said, you don't need to be fearful of actually getting Mpox. What you need to be fearful of is what they're going to be putting inside of other people's bodies. Because remember, those other people who will line up and participate in this experiment will be the ones who shed this onto other people. Now, they'll tell you that that's not real and that can't happen anymore because it's very difficult for them to actually fight off the narrative of shedding. So they just say, well, these ones don't shed. Take us at our word for it. But when they create this massive propaganda and they tell you that these things are going on, the sheeple will run and line up and go put these experiments inside their bodies. Then we have to deal with all of these sheeple running around and shedding it onto everybody else, because that's really how this entire biological operation works. If you haven't noticed it yet, I know that the alt-right media won't go into detail about that stuff. They'll go, oh yeah, I didn't get it, but I know maybe I did get it, but I don't regret getting it, but I'm not pushing it on anyone else. That's the alt-right narrative. You don't hear them go into detail about shedding, about how when these people are actually taking in what they think is a dead virus, they're taking in a live virus. And when they take in this live virus, what happened with polio, which is proven, when people were taking in the polio potion, They were shedding that and spreading it to other people. That's what's continually happening. So when we talk about the pale horse and death, the other things to note in there, of course, are hunger, right? Hunger, killing with the sword, as we hear whispers of World War III that are on the horizon here. We all know that this staged, scripted World War III is coming. It's technically underway with Israel and Palestine, but now they need the participation of other countries. And that's all going to come with the fake outcome of this fake election in 2024 in the United States of America, because they will be participating. And then we'll see breaking aways, we'll see states separating out of the union. All this stuff is coming. So them showing you the pale horse, Beyonce this year showing you the pale horse, this is all deliberately done. This is how they use signs and symbols in front of us all the time. Because they don't have to explain it away. They don't expect you to get it because they tell you that it's art. So when you see Beyonce and all these horses, you say, well, is Beyonce telling us something? Oh, is Beyonce a devout Christian? That's what some of the people say. They say, Beyonce's a Christian. Oh, okay. So does Beyonce, as a Christian, what is she trying to tell us then? Trying to tell us that she's just a fan of the Four Horsemen. She reads the book of Revelation. I've never heard her mention it before. They're using these people, and they're using commercials, and they're using music videos, and they're using the Olympic ceremonies to communicate and use these things as rituals to show you what is about to go down. And that clearly right there, and what you've seen throughout this video, is the horse that represents, the pale horse that represents death. So death, killing with the sword, hunger, and of course, seeing under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God. It'll be very interesting to see what occurs in the next couple of months, but it's coming. The foot is on the pedal. 2025 is really going to be an overdrive, the things that they begin to do, the things that they begin to implement, because 2030 is right around the corner. And most of us have heard the quotes about, well, Agenda 2030 is no longer 2030, it's 2025. It's still going to take time to implement every one of these things. But does anyone out there feel it? How fast all these things are happening? They expect you to be desensitized because you're fatigued from it. You're fatigued from thing after thing after thing, which is how psychological operations work. They wear you down into compliance. So they keep hitting us with things. Ever since the outbreak occurred, we've been getting hit with stuff almost every day. Data breaches, your personal information's all over the internet, false flag after false flag, right? All the stuff obviously with the outbreak, all the stuff with the election, all the stuff with race, all the stuff with children castrating themselves day after day after day. They are exhausting people into compliance with it. So the pale horse symbolism is out there. I wanted to do a video on it because I thought it was very interesting after covering the pale horse and then seeing some of this stuff that suddenly is just as a script work. This is what scripts do, right? A global stage where you're revealing the pale horse to everybody. Everybody's going, ooh, ah, cool. They have no idea what they're seeing. They think some guy just wrote this. You know, they were hired him and he just wrote it. He's like, I would like to have a metallic horse that you could think would be a pale horse for no reason whatsoever other than the fact that I like horses, right? Beyonce too. They love horses, right? Just like all these celebrities love monarch butterflies and eyeballs. I mean, they're always showing it to you and they don't expect you to think about it, right? It's part of universal law. They technically do reveal this stuff to us. It's just a matter of whether or not you get it or are paying attention to it, or if you're just letting them cast the spell on you, which is what ends up happening 9 times out of 10, or I should say 10 times out of 10 with the majority of people. So no coincidences there with the pale horse on a global stage with the Olympics. And now we have more chaos that has just ensued in the past week with social security hacks, digital ID whispers, and now the outbreak of the Mpox. Unbelievable, folks. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.